right. Well, thanks everyone for our session today, the last session of the festival with the awesome musical storyteller. Agnes Obel is gonna have some talk about the new album and some inspiration stuff. So, Gab, how are you doing? First of all, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm very good. It's Sunday, so I'm very good.
Awesome. Awesome. So, no, let's go and talk about the album, which I gotta say is pretty awesome. I got the chance to listen a few times. One thing I noticed is how how do you kind of search for a new direction this album? I remember like Philharmonic, one pretty classic musical piano driven album. The last one was kind of like a prequel to this one, Aventine. So was it like a build you were building up from Aventine to this one, or how was it? Were you seeking for a new direction?
Yeah, I really wanted to work much more conceptual this time, you know? So I was working with the title all the time. I wanted sort of to work with, like a modern composer where you have a title and then you work with that in mind instead of sort of randomly writing songs as I did before and just, oh, I like this one, oh, I like this one. So I wanted to be a little bit more focused and sort of have a concept for every song that was sort of the whole thing was fitting together. And that was the first time I've done that.
Cool. Well, no, I understand you. And for this one, I thought you were not using like piano, but I noticed you were using very rare keyboards actually on this album. How and why did you choose those in particular?
Well, a friend of mine got me interested in an old German keyboard called a Trautonium, which is this. It's one of the first synthesizers in the world. And I thought it would be great to make the whole album on that one. But then I found out it was not possible because it's a monophone instrument. So it's just one note. It's very difficult to write songs with an instrument. It's like making an album on a flute or something. So so I just decided to use it as like strings in the background. And then slowly I also got interested in using cembalo and spinet, and I contacted a German instrument museum and bought a lot of, recordings, which I could sample, so I didn't have to go into the music museum and play on the instrument, because that would be very difficult. I wanted it to sound modern, and then I wanted it to sound old, and it was a good way to do that with having these old instruments with the new ones in there.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned your writing style. You're pretty conceptual, and I noticed now many of your titles as well are pretty philosophical. For example, we got Philharmonic, which had a pretty musical context meaning. On this one, I understand if but this one has like a politics, like the fragility of human beings. So why did you choose why you went from music to to music from music to philosophy, and what aspects of that philosophy or philosophy did you get to inspire the music on this on the lyrics on this album?
Well, I was interested in something about being watched by other people, like I feel like our behavior change when people are watching us, and we are living in a time where we are watched and we are letting ourselves being watched. And I think it's very interesting, and it's also interesting for me as a private person. I struggle with it a little bit, and I also find it interesting, the whole social media thing, as a musician, but also as a private person, and to find these boundaries, and also in my music to say, okay, when do I really write about a private thing, or when shouldn't I do it? When is it too private? And these sort of lines it's still not clear to me, but I found them interesting and I found them relevant, and I wanted to have that in the song. So I especially wanted to have the feeling of paranoia in there, and then I also wanted to have the feeling of being of glass in a way, you know, that you're transparent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, definitely feel the paranoia, especially on the first track. You know, the strings, the ding, 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 it's pretty
Yeah.
paranoid. So you know, another thing about your music, and you know, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I'm a filmmaker, a film student. So when I listen to your music, one thing of the things that draw me into it, especially Fall to the Fire things, was how cinematic is it? Is that like intentional, or is that a coincidence?
Sorry, what about Future Fire? I didn't get it.
So your music is very cinematic. Is
Ah,
that a
cinematic.
coincidence or intentional?
Both. Yeah, I wanted to be. Actually, I really love things that are cinematic, but I don't go and make music and think like I want to make this track cinematic. But I guess it's just film music and also classical music and I don't know, pop music, everything that has this sort of visual element to it. I find this very fascinating and I'm always sort of drawn to it. So I think that's why some of my tracks sometimes also go in that direction. But I never sort of thought, okay, I want to do film music. Really, no.
Cool. Well, I noticed how you know your music. You mentioned you said art and literature inspire you. So did any particular movie, literature, book, or photography inspire you this time for this album?
Yeah, yeah. I was reading a book called Envy by Olesha. You know, he was a Russian writer, and he wrote a book about being envious. And the protagonist of in the story is very envious of his roommate. Like he really wants to be like him, but he also doesn't like him at all. And it is actually a sort of very subtle critique of the regime. At that time, it's from the 20s in Russia, so it's the Soviet Union. But nobody really got it because it was so discreetly made. But then after some years, it was clear that he was being critical of the controlling, of the way the state was controlling the individual. And I felt like this book was really relevant for our time in a way that we sort of, I don't know, I felt it was really resonating with me, this of um, you know, sort of, you have to sort of, you feel the pressure to expose yourself in a way, and being transparent, and there was a pressure like that in that time in Russia, and I felt like he nailed that in that book. And yeah, so, and I wrote a song called Golden Green, which is on the album, which is, I was thinking about calling that Envy after that book.
Yeah, and actually two female names, Mary and I just forgot the other name. They're based on real people.
Yeah, Mary is based on a person who had. I was trying to tell the story from her point of view, but her name is not Mary because I could not do that because she would get really mad. Yeah.
Nice. Well, you know, speaking of no films, one of the greatest filmmakers of our time, David Lynch, actually on previous deluxe edition of Aventine did a version for Fuel to Fire. And he actually become a fan. So so what's it like to have him as a fan? How much has that inspired you and motivated you as an artist?
It was just so cool and unreal. I remember when we got the remix, my boyfriend and I was just, I think we were like shocked, or I don't know, yeah, shocked is the word, for several days. We were just listening to it in the car and just be like, I can't believe it's David Lynch who made this. This is so cool. I can't believe it. And I guess I feel like that still. It's a little bit unreal to me. It's so cool. I've never thought in my life something like that would happen ever. So yeah.
Great. Well, speaking of collaborations, any plans to collaborate with any filmmaker or someone in the future?
Yeah. Well, I'm really interested in film that is sort of theatrical in a way. I feel like I would love to work with, yeah, with somebody who made very sort of theatrical films,
Yeah.
where the music is part of the story in a way. You know, did you see Birdman and there was like a drummer
Yeah.
playing something like that? I would love to be part of something like that.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, following that question, have you ever? I know because you said earlier that you don't write music in kind of like a movie or this kind of cinematic. But have you ever thought about maybe writing for a score, a movie score, or something like that?
Yes, I thought about it before I released my own music because I thought I could never live from it. So I was planning to maybe make film music or for something like that. And then I've kept on thinking about doing something like that. But I know from other friends, from friends I have who've done it, that it's really a lot of work, and a lot of the songs or the pieces are cut down a lot. So I'm also thinking if I do it, it has to be the right project because it's probably gonna take me the same time as making an album. So I'm just waiting for the right project, and then I will do it.
Sorry, I just got a mute. So you mentioned I saw on your page you're promoting a tour. So can you talk to us more about the touring and working with? Can we expect you to playing?
Yeah, yeah. What can I tell you? We are playing. We are this time playing with two cellos. I've never done that. Oh, we've done it only a few times before, but it's the first time we're starting with it. And then we brought in a percussionist who also plays clarinet and bass clarinet and trombone. And yeah, and then we have a bunch of keyboards, old like Mellotron with us this time, to try to recreate the album as best as we can. So we are trying to make a sort of a more, it's still sort of a sparse setup compared to other bands, I would say, but
Yeah.
we can definitely become really loud this time, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap up. Final question. What else is happening next in Agnes Obel's world? We now got an album, got the tour. What else is happening?
What else is happening? I'm just rehearsing at the moment, rehearsing with band, and then I'm trying to be a little bit summer, have a little bit of summer in Berlin, go to a lake and swim and take my dog to the lake. Yeah, because in the fall and the winter and the spring, I'll be touring all the time. So I'm just trying to relax and play music. That's it.
Cool. Well, thanks for taking some time with us here. Hope you had. I know you're having a blast. People couldn't see, but you're having a blast. So thanks for taking some time. And well, we're gonna talk with the manager, but hopefully we'll be able to have you in our pages of October. So look forward to that. Last question: where can people find you on social networks?
They can find me on Facebook and Instagram, and I guess Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that. Yeah.
Nice. Well, that was it, guys. Thanks for thanking us. And well, one final word for those musicians trying to make it a living out of it. Other words.
Just don't listen to anybody and do exactly what you want to do yourself. This is the best.
Sweet. All right. Well, thanks everyone, and remember to look for us on Famous Sound on social networks too for more news. And thanks everyone.